Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for Bellator 132, Freire versus Straus 2, which happens on January 16th. Overall, I actually like this card. But the undercard's actually got some. The prelim card actually has some really good fighters on it. Like Fabricio Guerreiro's on it. Derek Anderson's not too bad. You got some prospects like Everett, Cummings, Rivera, Steve Kozola. They're all like undefeated guys. John Salter fights Dustin, Jacoby, which is actually two UFC veterans who are still in their 20s, who could very well find themselves back into UFC. So yeah, the main card, Bubba Jenkins versus Karakhanyan's a good fight. That one's actually, as far as like when I was predicting this, making the picks, that was actually the last one I picked because I had a hard time with that one. Zaromskis versus Gonzalez could be fun, and actually Freire versus Straus should be really good too. Let's get started. Patricio Pitbull Freire fights Daniel Straus for the Bellator featherweight title. Daniel Straus has a 22-5 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by submission. He's 30 years old, training out of ATT. He is a former Bellator featherweight champion. He won it from Pat Curran. Then he subsequently lost it to Pat Curran in a very, very good fight. He is big for 145. Showing a lot more finishing ability lately as well. Finished off Justin Wilcox in the first round. He's got a really strong clinch game. He's a good wrestler with good top control. If he wants to grind, he can. Lately, though, he's actually been more in pursuit of the finish than just grinding his opponent these days. His stand-up is greatly improving, especially his left hand. He has a really good left straight. I believe he's southpaw. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is solid, and his cardio. He's gone 5 rounds with Pat Curran, so his cardio is good too. Patricio Pitbull Freire, 22-2 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub. 27 years old on a 5-fight win streak. Training out of Pitbull Brothers. Actually, a lot of good fighters are coming out of Pitbull Brothers these days. Not just the Pitbull Brothers or Betch Kohea. Man, there's another guy coming out of the Pitbull Brothers that was a really good prospect whose name totally escapes me at this moment. But he is the current Bellator featherweight champion, winning it against Pat Curran in a very good fight. He has really good fights with Pat Curran. These 3 guys make this like really good like trifecta pretty much. He has strong Muay Thai, really heavy-handed guy. Dropped Pat Curran multiple times. Drops a lot of his opponents actually. He's a very accurate striker as well. He's got a good chin, and his wrestling and takedown defense are actually very solid. And if I'm not mistaken, he is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And like I said with the trifecta, like Freire, Straus, and Curran, there's something about these 3 that work very well against each other. They're both around the same level, but they all have very different skill sets. But they just tend to bring out the best from each other. Freire has actually beaten Straus before. One thing to note about that first fight, it was a 3-round fight. One part of Pitbull's success against Straus in that first fight was him mixing in offensive takedowns. I think if Freire mixes in his offensive takedowns against Daniel Straus, he can do very well. And I can actually see him doing that. I think Straus is going to have a pretty... I think he could get the takedown on Freire, but it's going to be very difficult. Freire is actually really compact. He's hard to take down. He's hard to keep down. He's a very compact guy. He can probably actually make 135 if he really wanted to. So I think he might. I think Straus could eventually, if he's just relentless about it, could take down Freire. But I think he'd have a pretty hard time with that. And Freire has shown in the first fight, even though Straus has improved, that Freire can take down Daniel Straus. In this stand-up, you got to give it to Patricio Pitbull. More accurate striker, more heavy-handed striker. Straus has been making some great strides in his stand-up himself, though, especially with that really good left hand. But ultimately, I got to go with Patricio Pitbull Freire to win this one. I think it'll be really good, honestly. Straus's fights, as of late, have been getting a lot better. He's more in pursuit of the finish. He's rounding out more of his game a lot better. Stand-up significantly improved. So he went from like just that grinder to like this, like that really good all-arounder now. And Patricio Pitbull just has really good fights. But ultimately, I think it's kind of a game of inches. I think that Patricio Pitbull Freire is going to win this one. He's a better striker. I think he's... Straus has the better wrestling pedigree, but then Freire, I think, might actually be the better MMA wrestler, just in the sense that he can defend Straus's takedowns and probably get his own. Scramble-wise, too. Actually, Freire's a good scrambler, too. So, overall, though, Patricio Pitbull Freire for the win there. Next fight after that, Bubba Jenkins fights Georgi Karakhanyan. Like I said, this one's the hardest one for me to call. One thing is with Bubba Jenkins, I greatly underestimated him in his last fight. I may be underestimating him in this fight, though. Bubba Jenkins, 8-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub, 26 years old on a 4-fight win streak. He's a really strong wrestler, NCAA, all that good stuff. Really good ground and pound, and his stand-up's improving. Georgi Karakhanyan, 23-4 record with 1 draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 13 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO, 29 years old, training out of Millennia MMA. He is the former World Series of Fighting featherweight champion. Won it from Lance Palmer, actually. Then he lost it to Rick Glenn. He has some really strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills, both from his back and on top. Against Lance Palmer, he beat him 3rd or 4th round guillotine. And that's how Karakhanyan won that fight. And even against Rick Glenn, 1st round, he got a really deep armbar on him. Rick Glenn managed to tough it out, but nonetheless, good armbar there. And his stand-up's actually pretty solid as well. This one's tough for me to call, like I said. One thing that's encouraging about Karakhanyan is that he has beaten a very high-level wrestler in Lance Palmer already. He knows how to fight wrestlers. Even against Joe Warren. He's fought Joe Warren before. Did very well in that fight. He got taken down a lot. But he really worked off his back well. In the stand-up, it's hard for me to say. I actually kind of favor Karakhanyan. He actually has more, and also with Karakhanyan, he has more, just a lot more experience, too. With Jenkins, obviously he's a stronger wrestler. I think he can get takedowns. I don't know if he can keep him down. I don't know if he can avoid the subs. That's the thing. And of course, Karakhanyan did lose by mainly ground and pound by Rick Glenn in his last fight. Man, this one's tough for me to call because, this could be a case of Jenkins who can just, take him down, ground and pound him for 3 rounds and whatnot. Or maybe Karakhanyan catches him in a sub, beats him up in the stand-up. I'm actually going to go Karakhanyan here. I'm just going to say this right now. I could very well be underestimating Bubba Jenkins here again. My reasoning, though, more experience. He has prior experience fighting high-level wrestlers and doing very well against them. So it's not like he hasn't seen a wrestler before. The Rick Glenn loss doesn't necessarily look good for Karakhanyan in a sense. He did lose by ground and pound. And Karakhanyan's takedown defense isn't the greatest. So I definitely see avenues for Jenkins winning this fight here. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Karakhanyan's just more experience here. He's not someone that's easy to deal with on the ground, too. He's definitely a guy that'll be fighting off his back. He has a really good guillotine. So yeah, Georgi Karakhanyan for the win here. Just like I said, he's way more experienced. I still find Bubba Jenkins greatly improving. Man, did he look good in that Thiago Miller fight, though? I gotta say, I was really tempted to pick Bubba Jenkins here. Karakhanyan's better than Jenkins or Thiago Miller, though. So yeah, Georgi Karakhanyan for the win here, but tough for me to call for sure. Next fight after that, Houston Alexander fights Virgil Zwicker. So it's a rematch between the two, actually. Zwicker has a 12-4 record with 1 draw. 9 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. 32 years old, training out of Team Quest. Zwicker's not great at any one aspect of MMA. He's really resilient, though. I mean, he's a guy that's generally tough to put away. That's really good, especially his strikes. He's got a really good chin. He's something of a brawler in the stand-up. He's not a technical striker. He's just more of a brawler. And his grappling's decent, you know. He's not a bad wrestler. He's not terrible on the ground. He did get submitted by Linton Vassell, but Linton Vassell is really good. Houston Alexander, 16-10 record with 1 draw and 2 no contests. 11 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 5 losses by KO TKO and 2 losses by sub. 42 years old. He's training out of Grudge and Hit Squad. He has good Muay Thai, really heavy-handed guy and some good knees. His offensive takedown ability is actually improving. And actually, that was where a majority of the last fight took place, with Houston Alexander getting offensive takedowns on Virgil Zwicker. Houston Alexander, though, his chin isn't the greatest. His cardio is not the greatest. He's not that great off his back. And the fact that he fouled Virgil Zwicker with a headbutt is actually not the first time he's done that. Watch the Sokoju fight. He was actually headbutting his chest when he was on top control. So it's not actually uncommon for Houston Alexander to commit fouls. Regardless, Houston Alexander, he was winning the fight, and that can't be overlooked. He was winning the fight up until, and if he didn't commit the headbutt, he would have won the fight. I don't really see what changes here either. They're not prospects or anything like that. So I got to go with Houston Alexander for the win here. I think he could probably get his own offensive takedowns, as shown in the first fight. Do relatively well to striking. The third round is going to be bad for Alexander. His cardio is not that good, and Zwicker is a guy that actually kind of gets stronger as the fight goes on. But Houston Alexander for the win here. Next fight after that, Fernando Gonzalez fights Marius Zaromskis. Marius Zaromskis has a 20-8 record with 1 no contest, 13 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. He also has 5 losses by KO TKO. 34 years old, training out of AKA. He's a strong kickboxer, really good head kicks. His grappling actually is improving. His chin is a bit questionable, though. Excuse me. Fernando Gonzalez, 22-13 record, 9 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO and 5 losses by submission. 31 years old, on a very surprising 2-fight win streak, actually, beating Carl Amasu, kind of outlasting Amasu. And then, was it KO or TKO over Carl Parisian. He's not a guy that I would say does anything particularly well or badly. You know, stand-up's good. You know, his grappling's not too bad. I think his gameness is actually Gonzalez's best strength. He's just a guy that's always in the fight. So that's kind of an X factor there. I've been greatly underestimating Fernando Gonzalez his last 2 fights. I might be doing so here because I'm picking Marius Zaromskis to win here. I think he's a stronger technical striker. Yeah, actually, pretty heavy-handed guy, Zaromskis is. So, yeah, I gotta go with Zaromskis in this. As the fight goes on, though, you know, you gotta favor Gonzalez as the fight goes on. But I think as far as just on a technical level, Zaromskis should be better here. Excuse me, my neck feels weird. So I'll go with Marius Zaromskis to win that one. Get into the prelims, which, like I said, actually aren't too bad, and there's actually a good amount of prospects on these prelims. Dustin Jacoby fights John Salter. Dustin Jacoby has a 10-4 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. 26 years old. He's pretty tall for the weight class. He's 6'4". He trains out of Finney's Hit Squad. He's a good kickboxer. His grappling's decent. John Salter, 10-3 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He also has 1 loss by TKO and 2 losses by sub. He's 29 years old. He's 6'1" compared to Justin Jacoby's 6'4". He's on a 2-fight win streak, training out of Dethrone Base Camp with the likes of Josh Koscheck and Chris Honeycutt. He last fought in October of 2013. He is a finisher who's never been to decision. He's a good wrestler, solid ground and pound, and a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. Actually, I needed to get a refresh. Dustin Jacoby, actually, he won, he fought King Mo in his last fight. He's actually been doing some kickboxing, too. Some pro kickboxing matches as well. So his stand-up's actually greatly improving. I actually watched Salter's last 2 fights, and I was actually pretty impressed by what I saw. Solid wrestler, good single leg takedown. Passes guard pretty well and showed some good ground and pound. And actually in his last fight against Weaver, Rob Weaver, I think, showed a really good, he went from triangle to like armbar, throwing with the armbar from the mount, went back to triangle. I mean, showed some really good transitional jiu-jitsu skills on the ground. With that said, I'm gonna go with John Salter to win this one. Both are UFC veterans. Salter's 29, whereas Jacoby's 26, so they're not exactly like on the decline or anything like that. I don't know what the layoff is gonna do with Salter. Could be good, could be bad. Overall, I'm gonna go with Salter to be able to take down Jacoby and work his grappling game. Next fight after that, I don't know anything about these guys, I'll tell you that right now. But Hector Carrillo fights Everett Cummings. So Hector Carrillo has a 5-6 record, 3 wins by sub, 2 wins by decision. He also has 4 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. And he last fought in May of 2011. Everett Cummings has an 8-0 undefeated record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. So that's 7 finishes out of 8 fights, and all of those are in the first round. So this happens a lot in Bellator. You can see this all the time, and it's actually one of the reasons why I don't always tend to watch the prelims, is because you can kind of see what Bellator's planning to do here. You have an 8-0 undefeated guy versus a guy who hasn't fought since 2011, who's on a losing record, who has a losing record. Yes, I'm going to pick Everett Cummings, or Cummings, because he's 8-0, and he's fighting a guy with a losing record, you know? And, like I said, you see a lot with Bellator. Well, they'll position these guys who look like pretty decent prospects, who look pretty decent against guys with some pretty terrible records, you know? Next fight after that, don't know much about these guys. Unfortunately, I should probably actually watch some video of these guys. As Steve Kozola fights Jonathan Rivera. Both of them are 4-0 undefeated. Kozola has 3 wins by KO TKO and 1 win by sub. So he's a finisher who's never been past the second round. With Jonathan Rivera, he has 2 wins by KO TKO and 2 wins by sub. He's a finisher who's also never been past the second round. With that said, I don't know anything about these guys. I'm going to go with Jonathan Rivera for the win there. Next fight after that, Derek Anderson fights Danny Navarro. Now, I do know Derek Anderson. He has that win over Patricio Freire, most recently losing to Marcin Held. Derek Anderson, 11-1 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by sub. He's only 24 years old. Trained out of Explode MMA with the likes of Robbie Peralta. He has good stand-up. He uses his range actually pretty well. He has good knees as well, showing it. There's that one fight where that one guy shot him for a takedown, and he just like kneed him while he was going for the takedown. I forgot who he was, and just KO'd him right there. His grappling is not too bad. I'd say it's average. It's not like he gets taken down all the time or submitted at well. Takedown defense actually isn't too bad. It's not too bad on the ground. Danny Navarro, 12-4 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. 31 years old on a 12-fight win streak. Trains out of Millennia MMA with the likes of Georgi Karakhanyan, Syed Awad, Lorenz Larkin. With that said, though, I'm pretty impressed with Derek Anderson. I'll go with him for the win here. Next fight after that, Nick Piedmont fights Fabricio Guerreiro. Nick Piedmont, 10-5 record with 1 draw, 3 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. Trains out of Alliance, obviously with guys like Dominic Cruz, Michael Chandler, Gustafson trains there, Pearson, you name it. A lot of guys train out of Alliance. But Fabricio Guerreiro, 20-3 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO TKO, 13 wins by sub. He's only 24 years old. If I'm not mistaken, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Most recently won his last fight against Shamilayev and submitted him with a Kimura. A very slick Kimura, by the way. He has good offensive takedown ability as well. He actually fought Des Green and actually managed, I believe he took him down and managed to defend a good amount of his takedowns while getting his own takedowns on Des Green. And his stand-up's solid as well. Pretty high on Fabricio Guerreiro. Went 3 rounds with Patricio Freire, beat Shamilayev, beat Desmond Green. So I got to go Fabricio Guerreiro for the win here. Next fight after that, don't know anything about these guys, as Fabian, is it Fabian or Fabian? I'll say Fabian Gonzalez fights Albert Morales. So Morales has no pro MMA fights. He's 1-0 as an amateur, and he won that amateur fight by submission. With Gonzalez, he's 2-0, undefeated record, 1 win by submission, 1 win by decision. I'll go with the guy who actually has pro MMA fights here, Fabian Gonzalez for the win. And finally, Luke Bondole fights Chris Herrera. Chris Herrera has a 2-1 record, both wins by TKO. His 1 loss is by submission. He's 5'8", where Bondole is 6'2", and trains out of Team Quest. Luke Bondole, 4-0, undefeated record with 1 draw, 1 win by submission, 3 wins by decision. 6'2", on a 2-fight win streak. He trains out of King's MMA with the likes of Under Cordero, the likes of Rafa dos Anjos trains out there, Verdun trains out there. Not gonna lie, I want to say I didn't see a picture of Luke Bondole, but I think I may have actually trained. I don't. He seems like a guy that I may have actually trained under if he's who I'm thinking about. But nonetheless, I'll go with Luke Bondole for the win here. King's MMA, really good, really top flight gym. Actually, Team Gross isn't that bad either. He's going to be the taller fighter here. So, yeah, Luke Bondole for the win there. And to recap the main card, Patricio Freire over Daniel Straus. Georgi Karakhanyan beating Bubba Jenkins. Houston Alexander over Virgil Zwicker. And Marius Zaromskis over Fernando Gonzalez. On the prelims, I have John Salter over Dustin Jacoby. Everett Cummings beating Hector Carrillo. Jonathan Rivera over Steve Kozola. Derek Anderson beating Danny Navarro. Fabricio Guerreiro over Nick Piedmont. Fabian Gonzalez over Albert Morales. And Luke Bondole over Chris Herrera. So that's it for my predictions for Bellator 132, Freire versus Straus 2. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.